What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. YouTube has been disliking the titles I've been wanting to use lately, so I figure it only makes sense to try another one. Now, the content we're talking about today is nothing new, but there's a lot of it and it is ramping up. So I want to give my thoughts on the hate women discourse. Now, dudes have always had issues with women. They'll probably always have issues with women, even if everything gets fixed, because that's the nature of border friction. And men and women, sex and gender, different, and for good reason. But we're talking about modern internet shit. Specifically, the black pill swamp. The channels that react to women saying stupid or entitled shit, the channels telling you need to go to the Philippines to find a wife. Terrible idea, by the way. If you're going to Geomax, there are much better countries and cultures you can try that with, but I don't think it's the silver bullet these sorts of people act like it is. And then generally the channels talking about the state of dating in current day, which we have at least one foot in. And I call this sort of content a swamp because all you do with this content is it's like a hot tub. You get down in it and stew. But I think there's a reason for that, and we will get to it. Starting off, you see channels like this, and they're everywhere today because there is something here. The problem used not to be this pervasive, but it's getting worse every year. And that's why 10 years ago, the dudes who made this sort of content were almost entirely restricted to the darkest corner incel types. At least the ones talking about it this militantly and also making no progress. Because I reiterate, this problem has existed for a long time, but it's like a virus. It can sit in your system and stew for a long time before it breaks out. Now it's starting to break out. Or it started to break out maybe 15 years ago. And it's getting more intense every year. Because you would see, back in the day, you would see dudes comment on what's coming. Patrice O'Neal is my favorite example, but there were lots of dudes like him back then, talking about where man-woman relations were going, but now we're here. And there isn't much you can do, is the other thing. But also, you know there's something here. You know it's getting worse, not only because of this timeline you can look at, but also because dudes you would never expect to be in this shit or to be holding these positions, they're in it. Good-looking, successful, charismatic dudes. And I bring this up because in the past you were able to blame the entire problem on clear, straightforward, workable shortcomings in the loseriest loser dudes. And that's not the case anymore. And if we're talking about this in terms of that timeline, I think the broader issue crept up and overtook that sort of dude a long time ago. And what is the problem? If it's not strictly maliciousness of women, because I don't think that's completely the problem, though that is part of it. In other words, personally, I don't view women as these singular, individual, terrible demons. I view it more as the majority of women are like plants reacting to chemicals that have been put in the atmosphere. Because this is another thing. I didn't intend to put this in this video, but I think it's relevant. I was thinking about what men are. I think men are like white blood cells. We're blood cells. We exist to fight pathogens. We exist to manage situations. Men are at our best when we are dealing with a large problem we can see and work on. It doesn't have to be combat per se, but I think we are project type people. Battle after battle, not this sustainment thing. Going back before the man-woman problem got bad. You got the malaise thing going on, the Fight Club thing going on. But women are part of that too. I don't think men do well in factory conditions. We can do it, but it's not where we flourish, and that's not really what we're supposed to be doing. And although I think people in general are getting phased out, men are getting phased out really quickly. Because not only are the number of big problems we can organize and go deal with diminishing in number, but also we're being kept from them. Men derive a lot of purpose from fighting a thing they can see. Whereas today, this all feels designed for torment, by the way. We are fighting things we can't see, can't make any progress on, and we're being turned toward these abstractions that try to make our struggle or our fight the fight to become the most docile. I think men are evolving, but not upward, downward. And if you refuse to evolve downward or to devolve, then you're really phased out. This is a tangent-heavy video, but this is another thing I thought about. Have you noticed the way... Well, all these red pill dudes are talking about how you need to be the most masculine, the strongest, the most successful dude, because that's how reproduction works, or natural selection, survival of the fittest. Which, by the way, it's the fittest, not the strongest. But dudes like that are doing less and less well as time goes on. Whereas you look at the Nintendo Switch type dudes, or the harmless type dudes, the lame asses, they are always in relationships. Now, the way they're treated most of the time is not a standard of living I think even half red-blooded dudes would accept, but it speaks to this change that's occurring. Men need to become women or sub-women, or they need to die. Now, back to the broader situation. This all feels like some kind of a chemical reaction, like putting plants under too much UV light or something. It seems like a lot of women all of a sudden decided they don't want kids. Now, the strong independent woman thing has been going on for a long time, and that's part of what I'm talking about, but actually that's not the entirety of what I'm talking about. Because the strong independent girl boss thing, that feels like a separate situation chain. We're talking Stellaris vernacular. Because that was more of a slow rise until it got to the point it what is it? Breaks and supports. It got to a certain price and then fluctuated in there. It was never this huge societal thing. Something everybody talked about, but it wasn't, at least to my eyes, something a lot of people were doing. The girl boss thing. I think what happened was the girl failure thing snuck up and tackled it and supplanted the entire eugenics problem. Because it's not like most women these days are declining family life or having children because they want to pursue their careers or to be strong or something like that. They just don't want family and kids at all. It feels more like an organ shutting down. There is obnoxiousness in here, there is spite in there, but the taste in my mouth is more sad on the whole than everything. Because, see, it doesn't feel like women are getting phased out. Rather, it feels like a global population constriction. Men are being turned into pussies, and women are tightening up the chokes on the population. So, by the end of all this, men won't be a threat, and there will be fewer threatening people overall. And it's weird because you look at what dudes are doing. They're either crashing into the ground or they're pulling up so hard they're beginning to stall out. And most women are looking for ways not to do anything. And I mean this holistically. It seems like this broad group of women are fine, would be fine, and are fine when they can get into these situations, literally doing nothing. And that's another reason I say this feels like a chemical thing or like a reaction to something in the atmosphere. Because that, to me, that feels very, very unnatural. If you put dudes, a lot of dudes, in one of these complete, total do-nothing situations, it would be cool for a little while, and then even the loseriest loser dude would start to get antsy and want to do something, to agitate towards something, or to beat something. Even in the lowest dudes, there will always be this desire to impose a little bit on something, to take some kind of action, however small. And that's Joe Dipshit. But you look at Jane Dipshit. It's like Jane Dipshit is hibernating. She's in low power mode. It's like femininity got disabled. And I think that's, if we're conspiring here, I think that has a lot to do with the rise of the they-thems. As in, most they-thems are these hibernating or low-power women. I don't think that's a mistake. Now, if we're talking big picture, I think their births were mistakes. If we're talking about this species as if it's like a bonsai tree or something being grown and pruned in one particular direction, you weren't supposed to be born according to this grand plan. So for you, however they're doing this, if it's psychological or biological, it's not that hard to flip your switch off. A little bit of hormonal fuckery, and now you will live out your life and die doing nothing because that's part of the plan. Versus dudes, that's more of a hands-on killing or misguiding, like Christianity misguides, like Islam misguides, like Judaism misguides, like all the Abrahamics misguide, like this egalitarianism shit, this kindness shit. It's all misguiding. Getting you to put your energy somewhere useless, so in your hope your entire life that things will get better, or you'll get somewhere by putting all your energy in one of these shitholes, you won't actually end up doing anything, and then you'll die. So similar to what's going on with women, except you require a lot more of this work, a lot more of this deception. You are like a dog that needs to be led into euthanizing itself. Women are like plants you can spray with chemicals to make them shut off. Because this is all the weirdest thing. I'm not saying women have gone asexual overall. Women are fucking as egregiously and as frivolously as ever. Especially with that brand of traumatized avoidance dudes we talked about last time. But they aren't settling down. They aren't having kids, at least not intentionally. So it's not like libido got shut off, it's more like the woman's soul got shut off. Because, at least in my experience, malice doesn't feel like the prevailing attitude within man-woman relations. At least from the woman's side. Although there is a lot of malice there, the underlying thing doesn't feel like it's malice. It feels like it's soullessness, purposelessness, triggered by something. Now, that's not going to stop me from hating women. I don't think anything will stop me from hating women. Because it's not just sadness, it's also the following apathy. And that apathy is very hateable. And in response to whatever is going on or whatever happened, apathy feels like it's the thing most people are feeling. Which is why in women, in most women, you see scales of rotting, but it's all rotting. And with dudes, it's more varied, but you see allegiance to one of these camps, these death camps. Are you going to go to the gym, telling yourself this will fix the problem, the family, you're not having a family problem, and then it never will, or you find out it never will? Are you going to look smacks? That's an interesting one, because look smacks can get you into the woman's decadent rotosphere, but you'll notice even the successful look smackser dudes, They don't have families. That is a co-ed death camp. Now, I think you should still go to the gym. I think you still should look smacks for the power purposes. But you got all the Christians talking about you should go to church, meet a good woman there. How's that working for you? You have the dudes who are hating women, or okay, that's the end game. Islam, all these embarrassment dudes turning to Islam. How's that working for you? Stink a little more now. And then the black pill swamp, which is the most honest, but also it's still a death camp. Well, that's kind of the point, in awareness of the death campness. But the difference, or Jesus, the entire reason we made this video was to talk about this exact sort of thing. Most of the dudes in this black pill swamp, they keep hammering on hating women as if that's going to change anything. Or you go to another country as if women are going to be different there. This feels like a global thing. Because maybe you do go somewhere else and you meet a third world beauty or something with shitty values and a brain that doesn't work the same way yours does. You bring her back here, give it a little bit of time, she's just like everybody else. This is an assimilating poison. The reason I don't stay in that corner of the black pill swamp or do the hate women videos constantly is because it becomes obsessive. This is something you'll notice in career woman haters. They feel like people who want to buy a house, or that's why they're doing what they do, but the way they go about it is studying architecture from the beginning of time to now. All very interesting stuff, by the way. One of the things I like about the higher tier hate women channels is they can go in depth and in truth about man-woman relationship dynamics, especially today, and be dead on, be fascinating. But going back to the architectural example, not buying a house or building a house, because laws of the universe, whatever curse was put on us, there is no way to buy or build a house now. So it's an intense form of hopelessness. I don't stay in this mode all the time because it's not doing anything. Now, as a dude, I don't think you'll ever be able to escape this entirely, which is another thing all these dudes, or a lot of these dudes, like talking about is how I'm 40 and I'm single and I'm divorced and I've never been happier. Or I'm gonna die alone and I'm so happy about that. I don't think you'll ever break your desire to build a home, to make a family. But dedicating 100% of your energy to it every day at all times is not going to get you anywhere. And I'm of the mind, I don't think there's anything that can be done about this. This feels like the consequence of higher powers, or really good psyops and chemicals and shit. If you find a solution, it's probably going to be highly individualized, meaning this is not something you'll be able to learn from other people or to share with others. I'm assuming this is going to be something, if you fall into it at all, you will fall into it. But I don't think there's anything you can do. This is like an ant trying to fight a wave. And for me, the contempt for women comes from the fact, at least in my experience, they don't want to do anything. They are perfectly fine rotting and dying in this prolonged hibernation and population constriction. As somebody who's opposed to just going quietly, that is repulsive to me. Whether you're one of these spiteful, dumb bitches or you're relatively cool, it's repulsive to me. And on the dude side, the contempt for dudes, it's contempt for how willing you are to be misled, how easily you're misled, how excited you are to be misled and to try to mislead others. You're like Claude Giroux see in A Bronx Tale, and all your little is I don't know if that's a slur. All of all of your Italian friends are encouraging you to get in the car and go firebomb some black people. Wasted talent. I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who get in the car. Because you have chances, that's another thing. You have chances, so many chances, to realize the way this misleading shit works. How or why do you choose to get misled every single time? I don't have sympathy for people who refuse to learn lessons, especially when they're given chances to. At some point, you'd think you'd learn. And I'm not acting like I'm above this or better than this. There are lessons I'm still in the process of learning. Gotta fuck up or be fucked over at least a few more times before I get it. But eventually I do get it. I'm not gonna spend my entire life getting fucked around. But you will. And you'll be excited about it. And then when you get to the end of your life, and you've accomplished nothing, you've lost everything to people who fuck you around and mislead you, you're not going to blame yourself. Women are aimlessly wasting time until they die, and then dudes, most of them are looking for places to put their energy, but not really figure anything out. And this is what I'm saying with the house, the architecture example. I think there are people who are trying to do things, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere by bludgeoning our heads against this wall. And maybe building or buying houses, making a family, is not the way for us to go. Maybe families, that's something we'll be stuck mourning for the rest of our lives. But I'm personally not comfortable just wasting time in low power mode until I die. And I'm not comfortable just letting myself be misled until the water rises too high. There's got to be something we can do. Some other goal to strive toward. Some hole in the wall that will lead us to sanctuary or to the next checkpoint. Or maybe as a certified white blood cell dude, however you were spec'd to go about your white blood celledness, maybe you are destined to die. Maybe your deep-seated job accomplishment instincts, maybe it's all a hallucination. Maybe the death of your kind is as destined as everyone else's kinds. I don't know. I can feel that rope tightening, but I don't feel like it's 100% tightened yet. But this video is supposed to be talking about hate women discourse. I think I already made the point about it. We talked about the underlying problem. We talked about the growth of awareness and reaction to the problem. We also talked about how this discourse today isn't accomplishing anything, although it's getting more fervent as more women go into shutdown mode. It does feel like oxygen sometimes. It's an acknowledgement of the pain. And as men, we're supposed to be more emotional and open up and talk about our feelings. And part of those feelings are hating women. So it is a release. It is a relief of a burden we carry around, how much we fucking hate women. So this is a watering hole we can and should return to, but cyberpunk, the Socrates thing, I think we pulled that out of his ass. Drink but don't get drunk. We can shit talk women for a little bit before we close this video out. It's annoying the way a lot of women will defend the apathy. Now, a lot won't, but enough will that it's obnoxious. The state of women is like a rash that forms in response to an illness, whatever this unseen, unknown illness is. But then these apathy defenders, or these status quo knights, they're like the boils that form on the rash, which to me is perhaps the most repulsive. You'll use what little energy you have to stop people from even investigating what's going on, instead of helping or just getting out of the way and dying, the way you are so fervently defending your right to. I don't care if you die. I'm not worried about you specifically. I'm interested in this whole thing. And actually, that's something I've noticed about humans in general, and something I hate, is how opposed most people are, status quo fucking losers, are to the investigation of anything. I have never understood that. You want to go research something that I don't think even exists? Fine. I do not care. But that's not the way most people think. Most people, the idea that someone would want to investigate something feels to them like a personal and mortal attack. And I don't understand that. This is like Night of the Living Dead shit. These hibernation women can't just crawl into their mass graves and die. They must get in as many people's way as possible on their way out. Aided, of course, by their deathbed servants with their no hair and their not shaving. Gotta wear those XXL graphic tees because nothing makes a fat person look skinnier than very oversized clothes. That'll hide it. Or these new eunuch dudes. Femboys have been around forever, but there are a lot more of them now. They've also taken on a different role. Because to me, they seem more like whimsical death fairies. They're like these hallucinations of a dying mind. Most of them are absolutely not here to fix anything. That's why these sorts of dudes tend to fall into the they-them camp, although there are so much fewer they-them dudes than there are they-them women, but these are the ones I'm talking about, the androgynoids, the femboids. It feels like their job in society, well, they have two jobs. One is they are the cherubs who blow the trumpets of the apocalypse. Also, they serve, but also fuck with the hibernation women. Because that's another thing I've noticed. These hibernation women tend to love femboys. And femboys look like they love these hibernation women, but they're always doing fucked up, sneaky shit to hibernation women. Which is one of the only reasons I am femboy neutral. I am a proponent of the apathetic suffering of women. But when you zoom out, that is a weird... The rise of them and the role they play in society is such a weird thing. This really does all feel like the end times. And because we're trying to cover everything here, you could talk about the trad wife thing, the women who intentionally settle down and have kids, have a family. The reason I don't count them in this fixing of things is because they are essentially cosplayers, even if it's mimetic cosplaying. And what that means is, yes, they'll have children, but they will every time make them turn out one of two ways. They're definitely going to be indoctrinating them from the cradle. But the way that turns out is either you get a kid. If it's a woman, she might continue the process, but probably not, more likely, but that's in the trauma side, we'll get to that. If it's a dude, he's going to be this Christian dude who does what Christian dudes do these days, which is repeat the same shit to each other, jerk off and moralize and accomplish nothing. Or they're going to get traumatized, which is, I'm guessing, where most of the women are going to fall, and then they turn into hibernoids. In other words, with these, the floral dress trad wife motherfuckers, that's not a family, at least to me. Maybe it's a way of knocking out or occupying some of the more virile dudes. I don't know, but those family units rarely turn out pretty. Because back in the day, that archetype of woman was an authentic, naturally occurring thing. That was a family. It wasn't about an aesthetic and a lifestyle. Now it is. And plastic shit doesn't hold up very well. Maybe all this is happening as a response to harsh conditions. Sun gets a little too hot. Plants go into conservation mode. But the thing is, I don't think this is all a reaction to financial conditions. It feels like women got tampered with and then decided it wasn't worth doing anything about, and then dudes got misled on the one hand, and then on the other, the ones who are trying to fix things got stuck trying to fix a situation that is almost impossible to fix. Maybe not totally impossible, but almost impossible to fix. Alone, because women didn't care enough to try. And I think that's where most of this underlying resentment comes from, even if people aren't wording it this way or aren't aware of it this way. I think that's what it is. Because everybody's aware there's a problem. This isn't just a only men notice it, only men care about it, or maybe men are hallucinating it thing. Everybody's aware we're in a fucked up spot right now. But women gave up completely and men shattered. Went in 100 different directions. I think that's where the resentment comes from. But I think we'll cut it here because my voice is killing me. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.